Number 4.
Ngāti Apa North Island Claims Settlement Bill, committee stage.
Point of order. Joe Goodhue.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave of the House for the debate of all parts of the Ngāti Apa North Island Claims Settlement Bill to be taken as one debatable question.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There is no objection. I declare the House in committee for consideration of the Ngāti Apa North Island Claims Settlement Bill.
Hey, Eric. Eric.
Can I, look, could I ask someone to help me out here as a temporary speaker? Could I ask Steve Chadwick, please, all right, you just say, Mr Speaker?
Yes, Mr Speaker.
Madam Chairman. Is it beyond me?
I think you'd make a great
Mr Speaker. Order, please. The House and Committee on the Ngāti Apa North Island Claims Settlement Bill. The question is that the preamble, clauses 1 and 2, parts 1 to 3, and schedules 1 and 2 stand part. Marion Street.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a great pleasure to rise to speak on these committee stages of the Ngāti Apa North Island Claims Settlement Bill. And while I am more familiar with the members of Ngāti Apa who reside in Te Tauhi, who I am very familiar with the land and the territory that we are considering in this settlement bill, which relates to the North Island parts of the Ngāti Apa iwi. I'd like to start, Mr Chair, by referring to the words of one of my colleagues in the first reading to this bill, when the Honourable Mitaranui spoke detailing the background to this settlement, because I think in these committee stages, which we have now rolled up altogether, as I understand it, into what can be quite a wide-ranging debate, I'd like to just traverse some of the comments that my colleague, the Honourable Mitaranui, made in his first reading, in the first reading of the bill. He said that the history is interesting. Ngāti Apa entered into negotiations with the Crown during the late 1800s. And then to quote from him directly, he said, Ngāti Apa entered into a process which basically began with the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi for a simple purpose. They encouraged settlement, but at the same time they wanted to be recipients. They wanted to be in the position where they could benefit from much of the technology brought here by the settlers. So they entered into many discussions with Crown agents, many of whom are mentioned in the preamble to this bill. Certainly they are mentioned in the historical account. But that did not happen. In fact, Ngāti Apa went through a process of being subjected to land confiscation and land acquisition to the point where they were left with simply 1% of their original land holding. For them, that had a tremendous impact. He went on to say, Mr Chairman, that it led to the undermining of their culture, the loss of their language, and the fragmentation of their whānau, hapu, and iwi, to the extent that they did not participate in the development of the Rangatiki area. In fact, they were what we might call onlookers. Mr. Chairman, I take those words from my colleague as a starting point for the detail of this settlement bill. Here we are finally, after many, many decades, and the lives and deaths of many tupuna from the Rangitikei area who will have been aware of this travesty from the moment of their birth until the moment of their death. And they will have passed on the concerns and the grievance about the injustices to people who now carry the torch on their behalf. And another of the points that has been noticeable in this whole settlement process of the Ngāti North Island settlement has been the involvement of young people, of young negotiators. And here we have something which I suppose represents some of the worst and some of the best of our Treaty of Waitangi history in New Zealand. Some of the worst in that the land confiscation, the deprivation of a living, a livelihood, were amongst the worst of the crimes that the Crown committed against iwi. But we also have some of the best in that we have young people, young leaders emerging in Ngāti Apa who have been able to take this claim forward and to press for the kinds of redress which are now familiar to us in the treaty settlement process. There is an apology, and that's right. It's proper. There is cultural redress, and that is right and proper. Mr. Chairman.
The Honourable Mary Ann Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is cultural redress, and that is right and proper. There is compensation, and that is right and proper, albeit probably nowhere near the dollar amount that could quite legitimately be claimed by Ngāti Apa. And there is finally the restoration of some parts of land and property, Crown Forest land, that is a part of this settlement. And so we have all the elements here, and in these committee stages, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to reflect on some of the words on the page. We've got, it's very clear who this bill refers to and what the meaning of Ngāti Apa North Island is, and those people are identified and are written in to the legislation. There is provision for cultural redress in Part 2. The very purpose of the Act at the outset is to record the acknowledgements and the apology offered by the Crown in a deed of settlement. But it is also in Part 2, I referred to the cultural redress, but also Part 3 provides for commercial redress, which includes the transfer of settlement licensed land and public access to the wāhi tapu on that land. And then Sections 7 and 8 record the acknowledgement and the apology offered by the Crown to Ngāti Apa, and the text of that acknowledgement is written in full in the bill. The text of the apology is also written in full, and I think those things can bear scrutiny and discussion at these committee stages. Nobody is in this House, I think, is going to disagree with this settlement legislation. Let's wait and see, but I imagine that nobody is going to disagree with this. And so I don't want to labour points unnecessarily, but it seems to me that we have another good example of settlement legislation which does deliver the things that are now absolutely